Sean, it's another one where we're investigating the desperation of Elon Musk and the American government to try to get Starlink into South Africa. And the only people, or the biggest proponent of Starlink in South Africa are the white people. And we know the relationship between the Afrikaners and America dates back to apartheid because America was the only country that didn't denounce apartheid. They didn't consider it a crime against humanity. So we must ask deeper questions. I've already made a video in this. You can go back to my library to check out when I made a video called something about Starlink. Sorry, it was called Colonial Games, probably part 2. Go check that out. No, part 1. Go check that out where I spoke extensively about and I read articles to show you that it's a massive security breach and the fact that you could have your internet controlled by a foreign entity that obviously hates South African blacks, a clear Nazi, and somebody that is that has apartheid nostalgia. To give that person the power to your internet is further proof that we are living in a neo-colonialist society with a puppet government, blacks that have no backbone, that are just trying to get a piece of the cake at the expense of the people. Nobody cares about poor people, guys. I need to tell you the honest truth. Nobody cares about poor people. The only way we can ever change anything in Africa is if we have a benevolent dictator that actually does something to fix the ills of the past and to hand the power back into the people's hands, because democracy does not do that. Democracy keeps the power in the hands of the rich few ruling elites who just share the wealth amongst themselves, that elite class, and just keep promising the poor people that things will change, and they never do and they never will. So there's no other option except to stage a coup d'etat. That's how you get your country back. And Black South Africa, the time is running out while we're still the majority, because as you can see, we're being replaced with foreign nationals who are being brought in by the millions to try to displace us. And they're being empowered economically as well to try to displace us. So anyway, let's just analyze why exactly Elon Musk is so desperate to get this military machine, which is Starlink, into the country, and then we'll look at Malatsi to see how he's bending over, like the puppet that he is, to the demands of his masters.
Pauline, your thoughts here as the MK party. We heard Minister in the Presidency, Kumbutso Ntshabeni, saying earlier that Starlink was not part of the discussion during the U.S. visit. Your thoughts around all of this?
Lies. Guys, what they discussed in private, they would never tell us the details of those discussions. Remember, this thing is a theater, it's a show. And what we're being told is not the truth. The truth is hidden from us because according to them, we don't deserve to know the truth. And we've been stupid enough to believe in democracy and to believe that these leaders are actually have our best interests at heart. So Ramaphosa flaked. We saw him being a coward. He couldn't defend the son, kill the boy. He couldn't defend our constitution. He couldn't defend our so-called democracy in South Africa. But interestingly enough, he did when he got back to parliament. Not kill the boy, but he defended BEE. Which is, I mean, you're so flip-floppy, no backbone. These guys are they're not leaders, man. But anyway, they did have this discussion. They just won't share it with the public to let us know exactly what was discussed in that meeting. Remember, more often than not, when a politician says something, just believe the opposite of whatever they say, because their job is to lie to the public about the truth.
Thank you so much, Janelle. Starlink was very much part of the discussion in the Oval Office. The delegation in the Oval Office went to length to explain how South Africans are so barbaric, we're slitting each other's throat, there's crime, we're a crime-infested, violent country, and for the only solution that we need.
They always fail to mention that the crime in our country is increasing because of the number of immigrants we keep bringing in. We keep bringing in foreigners. We keep allowing illegal immigrants with no fingerprints and no way to track or trace them to come into the country. Massive security risk. Nobody is safe in the country. We're basically a country that's at war, and it just hasn't been announced yet. But we are currently at war. South Africa is at war right now. 1, with the colonizer, and 2, with foreign nationals that are trying to replace us and take our place as the new slaves of South Africa, which is ridiculous. As opposed to standing up with us and helping us fight the colonizer, they're trying to oppress us. so they can replace us as the black population of South Africa, which the white people would absolutely love. But yeah.
Is the US technology called Starlink to come and assist us. So it is disingenuous for the minister to come and say that. And straight after, we have a minister who goes on an illegal and unlawful venture to go and change the regulations that regulate how we as South Africans domestically, we want to empower and transform this economy. And they have violated every act in the ICT sector. The Electronic Communications Act, Section 9 and Section 13 has been violated. ICASA Act 4 Section 4 has been violated. And this need to hurry to go and amend regulations illegally is very questionable, especially after the Oval meeting. We've seen that in the past, if you want to give a policy directive, there must be a thorough stakeholder consultation. We have demanded as MK Party to know who are the stakeholders that have been consulted in this process. And also, there should be a regulatory impact assessment that accompanies this process. Where has that been done? And the minister is acting illegally and in violation also of the Triple B Act, and it's Section 3. And for us as MK Party, we have demanded that they retract this. We've written the letter to the minister, and we are going to also call for a parliamentary review into this illegal act to facilitate multinationals that don't want to transform using equity equivalents that are meaningless. For years, we've been allowing multinationals to come and operate. Microsoft, Oracle, Huawei, and many others. They just go and drill a borehole in some village, paint a school, etc., and they say they have empowered the community.
Minister, it has been brought to our attention that Starlink is actually operating in South Africa.
Now, this is very important, guys. Listen very closely. Nhlamulo Ndlela's been cooking all week and been exposing a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes. Now, when you see this guy, Malatsi, Kima libizzo la mthuma. Ala bona motho na soli, Kimang. Yeah, Diman. Ala mana ale Malatsi, yeah, soli Malatsi na. Alamana going out of his way, trying to make sure that he can bypass the laws of this country to accommodate Starlink and make sure that they slip in through the cracks. It's because they've already brought them into the country. Now they're just trying to do the cosmetic part of making it look like it's legal. But if you listen very closely to what Nhlamulo Ndlela is saying, you will understand that these people have been operating for a while now. Don't forget the relationship between America and the Afrikaners, or the white people in South Africa. They function as a country unto themselves. You must understand, part of Afrikaans culture says that they cannot allow themselves to be ruled by black people. For them, it's like a type of sin. It's wrong. They can't allow themselves to be ruled. They're not supposed to be ruled. It goes against what they believe is the Bible. So they will never allow themselves. They never accept black leadership, ever. Okay? So now let's listen closely to what Nhlamulo Ndlela says over here.
And that being the case, it's operating illegally in this country. And I'll tell you why. There's an organization, a company called ICASA Sepush. I don't know if you're aware of a company called ICASA Sepush. That company, the landing page states the following: we are dedicated to bringing reliable internet to Africa with sparkling, and we know stars sparkle, technology and commitment to service. We're here to connect wherever you are in South Africa. Stay connected, stay empowered, and unlock endless opportunities with ICASA Sepush. Now, they're using one of your entities' names, by the way. This company was registered in Northern Cape. There were issues that were raised around this company. These people, by the way, it's also owned by farmers, is our understanding. Then went and registered this company in Mozambique. It is now operating in Mozambique, and it is selling equipment, satellite equipment for Starlink connectivity. Now, our understanding, and by the way, this company is based in Centurion now. They have actually an office and a physical address. Now, what is also...
In other words, guys, the groundwork has already been laid for Starlink, and they've been functioning illegally in the country without admitting that it's actually Starlink. Now they're just going over the cosmetic legislative part to make it seem as if they are compliant with BEE, which they're not. So you see why military intelligence is so important, so that things like this can be exposed to the public.
Also concerning, Minister, if you go to their website, there's a part there that speaks to working strategies to keep Starlink connected in South Africa. It says, despite Starlink not being officially licensed in South Africa, many users remain successfully connected through a...
Ask yourself how. They're giving troubleshooting advice, advising people how to stay connected to Starlink, but it's not here yet, officially. Ask yourself how, guys. I keep telling you, white people are not under this governance of black people. They are functioning under the governance of America, evidently.
A combination of proven workarounds and reliable subscription plans. And it then goes on to say, based on our testing and feedback from the community and the strategies below, please find currently the most effective ways to keep your Starlink kit online and functioning without interruption. Now, Minister, this is happening right under your nose. We are busy talking about how Starlink comes into the country, yet Starlink is already operating in the country, right under your nose, without a license. They're operating illegally, Minister. This alone should be grounds for Starlink to be blacklisted and not even discussed in the first place. The other point, Minister, that I want to raise is that, this reminds me, especially if you look at the comments that were made by the owner of Starlink, where he said he will switch off Starlink, this wasn't for Ukraine, and it will end all the fronts of communication for the army. Now, if we give that kind of a person powers to connect our people, that alone is a huge risk for this country, because the sovereignty and the security of this country and the defense thereof will be in the hands of one person who can at a whim decide to switch off this country's communications. And as you know, if you go to war, maybe you don't know, there are three things you focus on. You switch off the water, you switch off electricity, and importantly, you switch off communication. Now, you want to give that kind of a person that's operating illegally in the country that kind of power? The other point is, then takes me back to Radio RSG, which I see our members from the SAPC are. Radio Sandergrense. 1937 it was founded. And that...
Three very important points. When you're at war, you try to switch off the water, the electricity, and communications. Already, we've had issues with what? ESCOM. We have water shedding in South Africa. And now you want to give them our internet. That means that we cannot go to war. If the most essential things or parts of our country are being controlled by our enemies, you cannot go to war. You see how that works? You understand why this is dangerous? Of course, white people want it because they'll have a greater sense of security knowing that all the information in South Africa is immediately given to the American military. And you got a racist controlling communications in South Africa. It makes no logical sense. You got Nazis that want to control communications in South Africa. And we're having discussions about whether or not we should bring it into the country. This is nonsensical. It's an absurd discussion to even have. Starlink is not the only service provider of this type of internet, but we're being told that we have to go with them. Why so much propaganda around Starlink in particular, as opposed to tabling the different options that we have around the world, including what China's running, which is more advanced than Starlink? Why the rush to bring Starlink in? It has nothing to do with internet, guys. It has to do with our security as a nation. America wants to make sure that they are on top of any type of revolution because they can sense that tensions are flaring and we're getting close to taking back our country, taking back our land. That's what this is about.
It was exactly that, a radio without borders, and was used by the apartheid government, by the way, to communicate. By the way, that radio station is the only radio station in the country where you can actually connect anywhere without any interruption of frequency. What I'm seeing here is this Starlink, supposedly for farmers, being another radio sondergrenze of apartheid model, which can be used and weaponized to achieve certain agendas. As you know, we have issues of racism and issues of farmers that have been raised in this country. What I'm seeing here is another radio sondergrenze of apartheid regime, which is going to be used for whatever purposes that they want to use it for, which we know will not be in the favor of this country. So, Minister, what are you going to do about that? How can we allow and continue to even have a discussion around Starlink in the first place when they are already operating in the country illegally? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ndlela.
Honorable Ndlela speaks about the discovery that Starlink is operating in the country illegally. Any company that operates in the country through other backward channels, illegal ways, I think the laws of the, in fact, I think it must be a must that the laws of the country must be upheld. It must be, regardless whether they...
That's a political answer. Because when they say, oh, it must be that this and this must happen, it won't happen. And why hasn't it happened? And why isn't it happened? But they say, yeah, but the laws must do this. You know the laws are not going to do anything. So he's just giving the political answer, which means he knows that it's already functioning. So when he says the laws must be upheld, you are right now busy breaking the law, trying to make amendments in the BE policy to allow them into the country. But now you're talking about the law must do. The law doesn't work. It's not working in this country. This country is just a crime syndicate, a crime scene, a crime cartel. This guy's talking about the laws must do A, B, C, D.
That there are Malatsi satellites or Ndlela satellites or whoever, there must be. And I think the question that you're asking is they are operating under our nose. Personally, I didn't know about that discovery that we have made. And in all fairness, I think we'll engage with the regulator.
Bullshit. He knew.
Honorable Tambo.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and to the Minister, to the Department for the presentation and for the spirited contributions from Honorable Sprati and other members of the committee. My concern...
This guy is our future revolution leader. We don't want democracy. It doesn't work for black people. This Bildungsroman framework that we have for our courts and constitution does not work for black culture. That's why they're trying to kill off black culture by mixing it with other African cultures to where we can't identify what is South African culture anymore. They're trying to destroy everything we are and everything we stand for. This guy's our future leader. He has to be protected at all costs.
Is that it seems like the minister is trying to amend legislation using a ministerial policy directive. And I'll tell you why. Because you use the word alignment, and I think you do it deliberately instead of amendment. So I think you're trying to effect amendments using a ministerial policy directive to the Electronic Communications Act as well as to the ICT Sector Code, which is a product of the BBBEE Act. Because in your policy directive communication, you say that you seek to align the two. I'm interested as to what would the consequence of that alignment look like? How do you achieve alignment outside of changing legislation? Because the ICT Sector Code, as much as it might be a regulatory instrument under the Department of Communications, it's a product of the BBBE Act. And to give a ministerial directive on the ICT Sector Code, which belongs to that specific act, which is regulated by the Department of Trade and Industry, confuses me. on the Electronic Communications Act, which speaks to the 30% ownership as well, I would imagine that an amendment of that or an alignment of that with the ICT sector code would require some level of amendment to either both pieces of legislation or one. One doesn't belong to the Department of Communications. It's a product of an act of the Department of Trade and Industry. The other is an act of Parliament. When you want to achieve this alignment, how do you seek to achieve it using a ministerial policy directive? And I think that speaks to the overstepping of powers or overstepping of executive powers that has been spoken to in the House. That is my primary legislative concern. But also conversely, I mean, we're talking about Starlink here. I don't think we should tiptoe around it. We're talking about Starlink. There might be many other foreign satellite companies that have interest in operating in South Africa, but there's a specific interest in Starlink, and I think Siklo will speak to the political context about that as well. I'm interested in, has there any been consideration of the impact the introduction of foreign satellite companies operating in South Africa would have on the local telecommunications industry, specifically as it relates to jobs? Because there's a myth going around here that the introduction of Starlink will achieve two things, that it will achieve rural access to internet connectivity and as well will increase jobs. How will a satellite that will operate and be ran remotely from another country impact on the local telecommunications sector's jobs? And considering especially the high unemployment rate in this country. But secondly, what is the knowledge of the department on the costs related to the introduction of foreign satellite operators? Will it necessarily bring higher connectivity levels to rural communities? Will it be cheaper? Comparative to what? And has there been any consideration of the other spheres within which Starlink operates and the regulatory frameworks in the other countries that they operate and whether they abided by them as set in stone? Because we're aware that they are operating in India with much stricter ownership, regulatory existence in terms of local ownership there. We know there's been a challenge in Taiwan, in Japan. Why are we altering our legislation for Starlink, whereas where it goes to operate in other countries, it did not utilize this coercion for us to change our laws in order for it to operate in South Africa? So I'm interested in the legislative aspect of it, and I think we'll talk further after we get clarity on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Tambo. I think it was Honorable Chawuki after.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. If you don't mind, I will remain seated. Greetings to honorable members and also to the Minister and his delegation. Chairperson, I think I've been greatly covered by my fellow colleagues, but one would also want to find out in terms of the position of the Honorable Minister in his policy directive or recommendation for gazetting. One would want to understand whether it has been taken into consideration not only through his political party, but as a minister, as an official in cabinet, the consequences that this will have on the ordinary South Africans, ultimately looking at whether it will provide an opportunity for SMMEs who are in the sector to have an opportunity to become service providers in the space. And additionally, it would be what type of consultation has taken place also with the Department of Innovation and Science. We do know that Innovation and Science has a particular program and project that they are running as well. And one would want to see if this was a unilateral decision that was taken, or was there consultation and consultation that is befitting and sufficient to really put a case study forward? Chairperson, also just taking into consideration, and I think this was said by Honorable Sobrathi, in terms of how the minister has conducted himself with the policies and perhaps how he seeks to amend transformative policies, one is quite concerned in terms of whether we are progressing or regressing. And perhaps through your guidance and your leadership, Chairperson, you will guide us in terms of the proximity or the reach of the minister and this portfolio committee in terms of those amendments and perhaps the recommendations. And I think it's quite important for us to re-emphasize that as a portfolio committee and as part of our oversight and our responsibility, we are finding out decisions that are made by the minister on social media and through media platforms. And one would want to have an appreciation that the minister is regularly invited to this platform and to this portfolio committee to take us into confidence on developments of the department. And I think this was said by Honorable Matafa, if I'm correct, to the question to say, or was it yourself, Chairperson, to say, did he sit and then make a decision? Or is this a political party directive and political line of march that is currently being displayed? And we must understand that, as indicated by my colleagues as well, we must take a very clear stance that we're not going to derail from a transformative agenda where we seek to improve the lives of the most vulnerable and create economic opportunities. And I think what is clearly displayed here is leaving an opportunity for international players to come through the back door without consequences, and therefore removing or creating a greater vacuum from those who are in the local market from actually competing. And I think this is what these recommendations that are brought forward by, and I'm going to call them recommendations by the minister, seek to achieve, and more especially favor business rather than look at the interest of South Africans and those who are previously disadvantaged from opportunities. And how do we ensure that these economic opportunities are really deeply rooted in providing or being distributed with the previously disadvantaged in our communities? The last part, Chairperson, I think one wants to find, or second to last would be, in terms of the travel that has been done or that has taken place through the department, what are some of the findings that the minister can give as part of the case studies for us to really understand what type of not conversations, but discussions are taking place through your international travels? Because this starts to raise some great concerns, and especially around Starlink, to say, are we having our GNU partners, GNU leaders and other political parties perhaps in the background utilizing their proximity to advance their own political agenda and create alliances internationally? And it must be cautioned, and I think perhaps it must be clearly stated. And then the last part, Chairperson, in terms of the department, it's not consequence, but its ability to measure the risk, its risk analysis. What are the risk analyses that have been conducted in terms of what has been pronounced by the minister? And does the department have the financial capacity to even take this legally? Chairperson, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chawuke. I didn't see Honorable Alicia's hand, so I don't want to leave you. Yeah. Honorable Alicia? Oh, you're saying no? Okay. Kumda Magileyo that she wants to come after Honorable Makubel. There's Honorable Makubel and Honorable Shong.
Yes, thank you so much, Chairperson. Appreciate this time. Thank you, Minister, for gracing us, and our greetings to all the officials and interested parties, my colleagues here. Minister, you are at pains to explain the inexplainable in our view. The clandestine unilateral approach that you took in providing this policy directive is for us very bizarre and very abnormal. This is supposed to be a transparent process according to Section 9 of our Constitution. The public should be aware of it, there should be engagement, and the institutions, at least that you preside over, should be aware of this process. Now, Minister, when you do a policy directive, you're supposed to do a detailed consultative stakeholder engagement. We have not seen that. We've mentioned that even in our letter to you. We're supposed to see your regulatory impact assessment. that you would have conducted that would lead you to do this policy directive. We have not seen that. Now you are in a hurry to bring these multinational players, such that, Minister, you are even tripping all over yourself with your colleagues there to tell us about 490 license holders. These are historically disadvantaged groups that have ECNS and ECS license. You raise other questions besides those that we came with. Now you talk about competition, you want to create competition. You've got 490 historically disadvantaged license holders that all of them are sitting at home. You have given them licenses without support, without financial backing, without any technical backing. And now you are even saying to multinationals, you don't need to partner with these 490 historically disadvantaged groups. We are going to find a way to avoid you giving them 30% of Triple BEE Act imperatives in terms of equity, ownership, management and control of the ICT sector. You are issuing this policy directive in the guise of creating competition. You are issuing this policy directive in a guise of trying to enable some sort of digital inclusion. You have it sitting right in front of you. The fact that there was a moratorium by ICASA under your department, Minister, to say we're not going to issue any further licenses, but we're going to support the current license holders, ensure that they partner with multinationals that come into the country, ensure that they can breathe, they get capital, they get supported. Have you consulted these 490 license holders in this policy directive? Have you heard from them? What are their limitations in terms of providing connectivity as their licenses are demanding them to? Now, it sounded as if you actually cared for these historically disadvantaged groups that are sitting with licenses that have become useless. But you issued these licenses, then you left them to the sharks. You threw them to the sharks. We only have two dominant players in the telecoms industry in this nation, MTN and Vodacom. And these poor license holders must now contend to be some last mile connector somewhere if by luck they manage to get any project that comes their way. You have not told us any of the support that you're offering to these license holders. I think your reason of competition is really flimsy, it's frivolous. It should not even have been raised in this platform. What you should be doing is to ensure that these 490 are empowered enough to be able to create competition for the two dominant, so that we get our data costs low and we're able to give coverage to the underserviced rural and remote areas. Now, Minister, that was in response to what you spoke about. The digital communications and the Communications and Digital Technologies Department has been mandated to enable South Africa's digital transformation. To date, we can tell you that you have achieved no digital inclusion. You have not created any economic growth for the country or enabled the government to create any further employment or economic growth. You have not achieved 2007 to give coverage to the underserviced rural and remote areas. Now, Minister, that was in response to what you spoke about. The digital communications and the Communications and Digital Technologies Department has been mandated to enable South Africa's digital transformation. To date, we can tell you that you have achieved no digital inclusion. You have not created any economic growth for the country or enabled the government to create any further employment or economic growth. You have not achieved universal access or any objectives that are spelled out in the ICT white paper. We ask ourselves sitting here, then what is the point of this department? With billions of rands that have already been funneled into your entities, we anticipated an ICT revolution in your operations. If not for the disastrous Oval meeting in the White House, which descended into a televised spectacle in which South Africa was subjected to a global ridicule as a barbarian, violent nation, pressured into abandoning its sovereign laws to appease the billionaires and multinationals like Starlink, with an investment pitch that turned into a violent crime scene of us slitting each other's throats, raping our women over and over again. If not for that scenery, where your department, Minister, became a center stage, that you have failed to provide technology that will cover our borders, that will monitor crime on our streets and in our homes and rural areas. You failed to provide connectivity that will give our children online schooling. You failed to provide connectivity in police stations such that we are able to remotely report cases and the police are able to respond to cases immediately. If not for the failures of the telecommunications department, perhaps that spectacle of the White House would not even have happened. Minister, we had even forgotten about you and your department, if not for that meeting. Let alone why we are even doing this digital inclusion and migration in the first place. But let's begin here. Blessed memory, Minister Mutsipe Katsiburi was a visionary who announced in 2007 digital migration. And she started all sorts of ICT revolutionary stuff for this nation. White papers that will give us digital inclusion. And the cabinet approved that. And the first digital signal was switched on in November 2007. Minister, it has been downhill from there. And unfortunately, you have joined the gang of the downhill. Because of the inability of this government, we have failed to meet every single deadline for digital inclusion, digital migration, to ensure that a rural child in South Africa can connect to the internet, can learn online, and can access research on internet. I can go to town to list all the failed deadlines from 2011, 2013, 2015, going to your research, 2021. The latest deadline that you had set yourself, you were sitting there, was 31 March 2025, which came and went. No digital migration. Let's talk about ASA Connect. Since 2015, you are going to connect 4,000 schools. We're sitting here with less than 599 schools that have been connected. It's a disgrace. Your predecessors that I'm going to name, that have all come and gone, sitting there. The former Minister Nyanda, 2009, 2011, former Minister Padeyachi, former Minister Pule, former Minister Karim, former Minister Kwele, former Minister Mutambi, former Minister Dlodlo, former Minister Kubai Ngubani, former Minister Stella Ndabeni, Nomvula Mkonyani, Ntshabeni, Ngungubele, and now here you are, 2024, and hopefully to 2025. Because we can't afford another disaster like this. This department has been a disastrous waste of money. We actually get migraines thinking about the billions that have been spent to connect schools, to connect our rural areas over the past 20 years with all of these ministers that I have counted. Over 10 billion rand spent. USAF has billions of rands to connect rural schools, to connect rural areas, to connect hospitals. Our questions now remain, who is actually benefiting from this disaster? Who is now going to benefit from this current disaster that you have created for us through this illegal and unlawful Regulation 17.8? Let's bring it now to SITA, where there's a new fraternity now with SITA. This is the entity that the White House was talking about. SITA was supposed to have provided ICT technology to the government in its entirety. Since 1999, when it was formed, SITA has managed to achieve nothing. Claims of corruption leveled against it, leadership, instability, governance failures, and the list goes on. To an extent where you yourself, Minister, you've called on the Public Service Commission to launch a comprehensive investigation into this agency. That today you are sitting here using, maliciously so, its regulations illegally so, to try and advance an agenda that goes against our constitutional transformative agenda of this nation, even our national development plan itself. Now, when we watch that ill-prepared
conclusion, Honorable
not yet, Minister. We've been waiting. Sorry, Minister, waiting. We've been waiting for this. I will not be long, but I need an opportunity to express this. It's of national interest. We waited for everybody who was late to arrive here, so may we kindly have this opportunity to express. It's our one opportunity. Our constituencies are listening to what we are saying. Those ill-prepared GNU delegation that was at the White House describing the failures. Minister, they were describing the failures of SITA. They were describing your failures as a Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies. They were describing the failures of Centec, the failures of USASA, the failures of broadband infraco, USAF, and all that money that has been spent. Over 6,000 employees under your watch, employed to provide what you want Starlink to come and do for you. Frankly, we think that meeting, that whole fiasco, Minister, was a vote of no confidence on you. Your party leader sitting there, John Steenhuisen, the president, and all the other ministers and their billionaire friends have actually issued a vote of no confidence on you. And hence they are begging Starlink to come and do your job, and the 6,000 people that this government is paying on a monthly basis to do this very work. And what is your response to all of this, Minister? Hardly 48 hours after the fact, you truly are affirming what they were saying, that you are out of your depth, and without due process and lack of judgment call, you went and issued an unlawful, unconstitutional gazette. So here we are today. An SMK party, through this committee, we're here to provide oversight. Over the past 30 years, oversight was just reduced to ineffectiveness, pushing partisan agendas. That time is over. We are not going to sit and overlook illegal acts, incompetence, and corruption. We understand what this means, what BBBE means, what the Constitution means when they talk about transformation, what the ICASA Act means, what the SITA Section 23 means. We understand all of this. It means a job opportunity for township and rural child somewhere. Minister, the gravity of that gazette that you so casually signed, it's a denial of a constitutional right of a historically disadvantaged group to own the economy, to participate in the ICT sector, and to own land in this country. Those of us who have single citizenship and single passport, and many others who vote for us, they want an opportunity to play in the ICT sector. They are tired of equity equivalent handouts. They are tired of multinationals that are going to come in here and give them crumbs and train them without meaningful, sustainable ownership, control, and transformation. Our letter as MK Party was very clear. There is no multinational that will evade the BBB Act of ownership, control, and management, the 30% as provided by the Act. As I draw to close now, Minister, it's a pity that we can't directly put a motion of no confidence on you as MPs and as a party, because you have delegated authority, you are appointed by the president. But in the light of that, these are my 4 questions to you. Why should we keep you as a minister of DCDT? When are you reversing this unlawful gazette? Who pressured you to do this? You are under oath. Who pressured you? Who instructed you to do this? Because you seem like an intelligent man. Maybe in the words of Rupert, you seem like a changed man. Who is pressuring you to do this? Tell us who in your department, the departments that you oversee, advised you to do this gazette, because we want to know them. Because those are the incompetent people that after we release you, we need to go after them as well. Finally, again, Mr. Minister, when can we expect your resignation letter? I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Makubela. Honorable members, I want to plead with you. It's 11:49. Ne?
My apologies to interrupt you. I missed the second question on the 4 concluding questions that the honorable member asked. So I would really, and I'm not being distracted.
Number one was,
why should we keep you? So I missed the second one.
Honorable Makubela. Honorable Makubela, could you repeat your second question?
You see now, I'm not sure if I can do it with the same passion. So, but the second one was, when are you reversing the unlawful gazette? You got the other ones? Perfect, thank you.
Members, please, it's 10 to 12. And unfortunately, we do have plenary at 2 o'clock. I know that we all want to speak on this matter, but I'm appealing. Let's try and manage time because the minister will still have to respond, and I know you will still want to follow up. SABC Centec sitting here, so please, can I ask that we manage ourselves? I don't want to stop anybody. Lest I be called a changed woman. Honorable.
So as you heard for yourselves, that's where we find ourselves in the country. It's a pity that they're laughing at the end. I think that is rather distasteful, considering the importance of this conversation. But this is where we find ourselves as a country, and we have a long way to go to fix all of these things. And like I keep saying, it's gonna require some bravery if we're serious about freedom, guys. It's gonna require some bravery. Outside of that, we will continue for many generations to come to be slaves. And this is why I keep saying that at least one generation needs to make a sacrifice. This generation currently is chickening out of it. La taba, lena lele twa. And if you don't stand up and fight this thing and resolve it in this generation, the window in which to do it for the future generations might close, which is rather unfortunate. That after all the sacrifices our ancestors made for us, this is where we sit. A generation of cowards that don't want to sacrifice for the nation, that don't want to sacrifice for future black people, that are allowing colonization to be victorious, colonization to win. It's a shame. It's a shame, guys. But not me. I will not allow that to be how I'm remembered in history. By any means necessary, we will honor the works of our ancestors and make sure that we get back what was stolen. Say no to Starlink, guys. We don't want it. We don't need it. It's dangerous in our country, and it gives our colonizers the ultimate power. Because now they can control our water, electricity, and now internet. Think about your country, guys. Till next time.